Is consciousness a particle? That question alone has unsettled physicists for decades. It sounds almost absurd at first, like asking whether thought has mass or whether a dream could leave a shadow. But deep within the strange mathematics of quantum mechanics, there are clues that something about consciousness behaves as if it were both wave and particle, everywhere and nowhere, observer and observed. Welcome to the Sleeping Physicist, a place where science exhales, where questions unfold slowly, like ripples moving through still water. Tonight, we'll explore one of the most haunting possibilities in all of physics, that consciousness itself might be a fundamental element of the universe. Not just an emergent property of the brain, not just a side effect of neurons firing, but something woven into the quantum fabric of reality. So, settle in. Feel your breath slow. The mind you're using to listen right now, the one forming thoughts, translating these words into meaning, is the very phenomenon we're about to question. There's a quote by the Nobel laureate physicist Max Planck, often called the father of quantum theory. Near the end of his life, he said something startling. "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulates consciousness." It was an astonishing confession from a man who spent his career defining the equations that gave birth to quantum mechanics. The same equations that describe the smallest particles in existence. To understand what he meant, we have to return to the birth of quantum theory itself, to a moment in history when physicists discovered that the universe was not made of solid, predictable matter, but of possibilities. Imagine the early 1900s. The great age of classical physics had reached its height. Newton's laws seemed to explain everything: the motion of planets, the fall of an apple, the precise arc of a cannonball. Then, something strange began to happen. Physicists studying light found it refused to behave in a consistent way. Sometimes it acted like a wave, spreading smoothly through space. Other times it acted like a particle, a tiny packet of energy. In 1905, Albert Einstein proposed that light could be both at once. He called these packets quanta, later known as photons. That idea shattered the comfortable solidity of the physical world. It suggested that reality itself wasn't continuous but granular, made up of indivisible pieces of energy. And it didn't stop there. When scientists looked deeper into atoms, they discovered that electrons, too, could act like waves. They could exist in many places at once until observed. Only when measured did they seem to choose a location, collapsing from a blur of possibilities into a definite point. This was the birth of what we now call the quantum measurement problem, one of the most profound puzzles in all of science, because the act of observing seemed to change what was observed. Let's pause with that thought. If an electron exists in multiple states until it's observed, what exactly counts as an observation? What makes a wave of probability become a single particle of reality? Some physicists, like Niels Bohr, argued that the observer doesn't need to be conscious, that any interaction, a photon hitting a detector, a particle colliding with another, is enough to collapse the wave function. But others, like Eugene Wigner, weren't so sure. Wigner proposed what became known as the Wigner's friend paradox. Imagine a physicist in a sealed lab performing a quantum experiment, say, measuring the spin of an electron. To the physicist inside, once they observe the result, the wave function collapses. The measurement is real. But to someone outside the lab who hasn't yet seen the result, the entire lab, physicist included, still exists in a superposition of possibilities. That leads to a disturbing question. Does the wave function collapse when the measurement happens, or only when someone becomes conscious of the result? If it's the latter, then consciousness isn't just something inside the universe. It's something that helps create the universe as we experience it. This idea frightened and fascinated the pioneers of quantum physics. John von Neumann, one of the most brilliant mathematicians in history, formalized the problem in his 1932 book Mathematical Foundations of Quantum Mechanics. He showed that you could trace the act of measurement backward through every part of the system, from the measuring device to the detector to the photons hitting it. All of it could be described by quantum equations. But somewhere along that chain, something had to be different. Something had to make a definite result appear. Von Neumann concluded that the only thing not governed by the same physical laws, the only thing that didn't obey quantum superposition, was the observer's mind. In other words, consciousness might be the boundary where potential becomes actual. Decades later, the physicist and philosopher David Bohm expanded on this idea with his implicate order. Bohm believed that the universe isn't composed of separate objects, but of an underlying field of wholeness, a hidden layer where everything is connected. What we see as particles or objects are just local expressions of that deeper order, like ripples appearing and disappearing on the surface of an ocean. And perhaps, he suggested, consciousness is not just another ripple, but the ocean becoming aware of itself. This echoes another famous quote from Erwin Schrödinger, the creator of the wave equation that defines all quantum systems. The total number of minds in the universe is one. In fact, consciousness is a singularity phasing within itself. When we begin to connect these ideas, a strange picture emerges, one in which consciousness might not arise from matter at all. It might be the other way around. In recent decades, a handful of physicists have dared to formalize this possibility. Among them is Sir Roger Penrose, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist known for his work on black holes and general relativity. Penrose has long argued that consciousness cannot be explained purely through classical computation. The human mind, he says, demonstrates a kind of understanding that transcends algorithmic processing. Together with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, Penrose proposed the Orchestrated Objective Reduction Theory, or ORC-OR. According to this model, quantum processes occur within microscopic structures in the brain called microtubules. These structures, found inside neurons, might sustain quantum coherence, delicate quantum states that interact with the fabric of spacetime itself. In Penrose's view, consciousness arises not from computation but from the collapse of quantum superpositions within these microtubules, events tied to the fundamental geometry of reality. In other words, every conscious moment could be a quantum event, a particle-like collapse of possibility into perception. If that sounds abstract, let's bring it closer. Imagine you're standing at a crossroads. Ahead of you are two paths, one leading into a forest, the other toward a quiet river. Until you choose, both possibilities exist in your mind. You can picture both, feel both. But the moment you decide, the infinite potential collapses into one reality, one memory, one world. If Penrose is right, that act of choosing, of conscious awareness, is not metaphorical, it's physical. a quantum event occurring not in the external world alone, but in the geometry of your mind. That moment of awareness is a particle of consciousness. This notion has sparked fierce debate. Many neuroscientists reject the idea outright, arguing that the brain is far too warm, wet, and noisy to sustain delicate quantum states. Yet, research in quantum biology continues to challenge that assumption. In 2010, studies in photosynthetic organisms revealed that quantum coherence, the simultaneous existence of multiple energy states, plays a role in how plants capture light. Quantum tunneling has been found in the way enzymes accelerate chemical reactions. Even birds appear to use quantum entanglement in their navigation systems, sensing Earth's magnetic field through quantum effects in their eyes. If nature has learned to harness quantum phenomena in living systems, could the brain, evolution's most complex creation, be doing the same? Recent experiments suggest it might. Researchers have detected coherent oscillations in brain microtubules lasting longer than classical physics predicts. Others have found that certain anesthetics, which reliably switch off consciousness, specifically disrupt quantum activity in those same structures. It's not proof, but it's enough to make even the most skeptical physicist pause. Because if consciousness is quantum, then it might not be confined to the brain at all. It could be something more universal, a field that the brain merely tunes into. Like a radio doesn't create the signal but receives it. That metaphor appears again and again, from Eastern mysticism to modern physics, and it raises a haunting possibility. If consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain, but a fundamental aspect of the universe, then perhaps what we call self is simply one local expression of a much larger awareness, a quantum field of mind that pervades all space and time. This brings us to a question many physicists fear to ask out loud. Could consciousness itself be a particle? Not in the sense of something we could catch in a detector or weigh on a scale, but in the sense that every moment of awareness might correspond to a discrete quantum event, a unit of experience, a quantum of consciousness. Some have even proposed a name for it, the psychon. Theoretical physicist Henry Stapp, who worked with Heisenberg, explored this concept in his work on the quantum theory of mind. He suggested that each conscious act, each moment of awareness, corresponds to the collapse of a quantum state. In that sense, consciousness would have both wave-like and particle-like properties, mirroring the dual nature of light and matter. Awareness would spread through the quantum field as a wave of potential, infinite, undefined, until it collapses into the particle of a single experience. You could think of every thought, every perception, as a flicker of light on the vast screen of the quantum universe. Of course, most physicists remain cautious, even dismissive. Consciousness, they argue, is not measurable. It doesn't fit neatly into equations. But history reminds us that quantum theory itself began with ideas that once seemed equally impossible. Particles behaving like waves, cats both alive and dead, universes that exist only when observed. And so we continue to ask, what if the universe is not built from matter, but from moments of awareness? What if every particle, every field, every atom is a fragment of consciousness expressing itself through physics? The philosopher Arthur Eddington once said, "The stuff of the world is mind stuff." Perhaps he wasn't being poetic. Perhaps he was being literal. In the next part of our journey, we'll explore what it might mean if consciousness truly behaves like a quantum particle, how it could interact with space-time itself, how it might explain the observer effect, and why the line between mind and matter might be thinner than we ever imagined. But for now, let the thought linger. You are not merely in the universe. You might be the universe, observing itself, one quantum flicker at a time. If consciousness were a particle, then what field does it belong to? In physics, every particle we know arises from an underlying field. Electrons emerge from the electron field. Photons emerge from the electromagnetic field. Quarks from the quantum chromodynamic field. Each field vibrates with its own pattern, and every particle is a ripple of that vibration, a localized wave in an invisible ocean. If consciousness truly has a quantum origin, then it too might arise from a deeper layer, a consciousness field that pervades all of space, perhaps as fundamental as gravity itself. Sir Roger Penrose, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist, believed that awareness might emerge not from matter, but from the geometry of space-time. According to his model, the fabric of the universe is not a smooth continuum, but a network of quantum structures, a fine, granular foam that exists at the smallest possible scale, the Planck length. Within this quantum foam, tiny fluctuations constantly arise and collapse. Penrose proposed that these collapses correspond to moments of objective reduction, spontaneous quantum events that define reality itself. And when such events occur inside the brain, particularly within the microtubules of neurons, they may correspond to conscious moments. Each conscious instant, then, would not just be a byproduct of brain chemistry, but a discrete quantum event, a flash of reality forming from the potential of the quantum field. Awareness would be woven directly into the structure of space-time, each thought a tiny crystallization of the universe's geometry. This idea connects with one of the strangest features of quantum physics, the observer effect. When unobserved, a quantum system exists as a wave of probabilities, a superposition of all possible outcomes. But when it is observed, the wave collapses into a single, definite reality. The act of observation changes what is observed. The question that has haunted physicists for nearly a century is, what or who counts as an observer? Some claim that any measurement, even a detector or a photon's interaction, triggers collapse. Others, such as the mathematician John von Neumann and the physicist Eugene Wigner, suggested that the true collapse occurs only when consciousness enters the equation. If this is so, then consciousness is not just something within the universe. It is the very process by which the universe becomes definite, the interface between possibility and actuality. John Archibald Wheeler, one of the great theoretical physicists of the 20th century, described this as the participatory universe. He wrote, "We are not merely bystanders in the universe, we are participants in its creation." Every act of observation, he said, helps shape the unfolding of cosmic history. Reality does not simply exist independently, it requires participation. We are threads in the tapestry of existence, woven through every act of awareness. Modern neuroscience adds another layer. Giulio Tononi's integrated information theory proposes that consciousness arises from the integration of information within a system. The more information a system can integrate, the more unified its internal structure, the richer its consciousness. In this model, awareness is not limited to biological organisms. Any sufficiently complex network, whether silicon or carbon, can possess a degree of conscious experience proportional to its informational integration. But What if the information itself is quantum? What if the integration Tononi describes happens not at the neuronal scale, but at the quantum scale, within the fundamental geometry of space-time? In that case, consciousness would not merely be an emergent property of matter. It would be the self-organizing resonance of the universe, information folding back upon itself, aware of its own structure. The physicist David Bohm described something similar in his theory of the implicate order. To Bohm, the world we see, the explicate order, is just a projection of a deeper, hidden domain where everything is connected. In that deeper level, nothing is truly separate. Every particle, every photon, every thought is enfolded into everything else. Consciousness, in this sense, is the act of unfolding that deeper order into perception. The brain does not create awareness, it reveals it. It acts as a receiver and interpreter of a cosmic broadcast of mind. Recent experiments have begun to test pieces of these ideas. In 2021, researchers studying neuronal microtubules found vibrational frequencies in the terahertz range, trillions of oscillations per second. These vibrations can sustain quantum coherence far longer than classical physics predicts. If synchronized across many neurons, these coherent oscillations could create a single unified quantum field inside the brain, binding information across vast networks faster than any electrical signal could travel. This field would not merely process information, it could generate the seamless continuity of awareness, the feeling of being one coherent you. If that is true, consciousness may not flow continuously like a river, but pulse like a flickering light. Each pulse could correspond to a quantum collapse, a discrete event of awareness lasting a fraction of a millisecond, a quantum frame in the film of your life. At the smallest scale, you are not a continuous self, but a rapid sequence of awakenings. You are, quite literally, blinking in and out of existence, yet so quickly that your mind experiences it as flow. The smallest unit of time in physics, the Planck time, lasts only 10 Morse 43 seconds. Below that, time ceases to have meaning. Penrose's theory suggests that consciousness operates near this boundary, where quantum geometry meets the birth of time itself. Each conscious moment could be the universe starting anew, a fresh act of creation at the edge of nothingness. Every awareness, every perception, would be a tiny rebirth of the cosmos. Einstein's general relativity taught us that matter curves space and time. But perhaps consciousness curves something else, the informational structure of reality. If awareness has geometry, it may gently shape the probabilities of the world it observes, influencing events not through force but through information. Penrose's later work in twistor theory explored this possibility. In twistor space, reality is described not by points and positions, but by light-like geometries that contain both space and time in a single unified structure. If consciousness arises from this domain, it may be able to connect across vast distances instantly, much like the phenomenon of quantum entanglement. Entanglement defies ordinary logic. Two particles that once interacted can remain correlated no matter how far apart they drift. Measure one, and the other responds instantly, as if space between them does not exist. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but perhaps it is not spooky at all. Perhaps it is simply a reflection of the unity beneath apparent separation, a unity consciousness might share. The physicist Henry Stapp believed that entanglement was not limited to subatomic particles. He argued that consciousness itself might be entangled, that minds could share correlations across distance and time, woven together by the same non-local threads that bind the quantum world. When people think of one another at the same instant, when ideas arise simultaneously in different minds, it may be more than coincidence. It may be the faint hum of the consciousness field resonating through space. The holographic principle adds another layer to this picture. In the late 20th century, physicists studying black holes discovered that all the information within a volume of space can be encoded on its boundary. This led to the idea that our universe might be holographic, a three-dimensional projection from a two-dimensional surface of information. If so, consciousness could be the decoding mechanism that translates that information into the world we perceive. Reality would not exist fully until awareness brings it into focus. Just as a hologram becomes visible only when illuminated by light, the universe becomes real only when illuminated by consciousness. None of this has been proven, but none of it can be dismissed. The history of science is filled with ideas once deemed impossible. The quantum world itself began as an absurdity. Particles that behave like waves, matter that exists in multiple states at once, a universe where probability replaces certainty. Yet every experiment has confirmed the strange truth. Reality is not solid, not fixed, but fluid and relational. The deeper we look, the more it resembles thought, abstract, interconnected, and self-aware. Werner Heisenberg once wrote, "What we observe is not nature itself, but nature exposed to our method of questioning." It may be that consciousness is both the question and the answer, the universe interrogating itself through every living being, seeking to know its own reflection. And so the idea of a consciousness particle lingers. Perhaps it is not a particle in the traditional sense, but a quantum of awareness, a unit of reality that flickers in and out of being wherever observation occurs. Perhaps consciousness is the light by which the cosmos sees itself. Each of us a tiny lens through which that light refracts into experience. In the next part, we will explore where this leads, whether consciousness can persist beyond the body, whether awareness itself might be conserved like energy, and what this means for the ultimate nature of life, death, and reality itself. For now, let the idea settle gently. Every thought, every breath, every moment of being may be a quantum event, the universe awakening to itself, again and again, through you. If consciousness truly operates on quantum principles, then the next question becomes almost unavoidable. What happens to it when the body dies? In physics, there is a law so fundamental that every scientific theory must obey it: the conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only change form. The fire that warms your hands comes from the stored chemical energy of wood, which came from sunlight, which came from the nuclear fusion in the heart of a star. The chain is unbroken. Nothing disappears. It only transforms. If consciousness is truly rooted in the quantum field, if it has a measurable, energetic, or informational signature, then perhaps it too obeys the same rule. Perhaps awareness never ends. It merely changes form. The Penrose-Hameroff theory suggests that when a person dies, the quantum information stored in the microtubules of their neurons does not vanish. Instead, it dissipates into the fabric of the universe, the same quantum field from which it came. In this view, death is not an erasure but a diffusion, like ink spreading through water. The pattern of consciousness dissolves into the larger field, no longer bound to a body but still existing in another form. When Penrose was asked whether this implied life after death, he answered carefully. He said that consciousness, as a quantum phenomenon, could persist at a fundamental level, not as personality or memory, but as information within the geometry of space-time. The body may fade, but the wave of awareness that animated it may continue as part of the universe's ongoing computation. The idea finds unexpected echoes in modern physics. In 1974, Stephen Hawking discovered that black holes are not completely black. They emit faint radiation, now called Hawking radiation, due to quantum effects near their event horizons. For decades, this led to a paradox. If black holes evaporate over time, what happens to the information that fell into them? If it is lost, then quantum mechanics is violated, because quantum information cannot be destroyed. This became known as the black hole information paradox. And, after decades of debate, the solution that most physicists accept today is that information is not lost. It becomes encoded in the structure of space-time itself, preserved in subtle correlations within the Hawking radiation. If the universe preserves the information of every particle that has ever fallen into a black hole, could it also preserve the quantum information of every conscious mind? If the patterns that make up awareness are written in the geometry of the quantum field, then perhaps consciousness, too, leaves an imprint, a faint echo woven into the structure of space-time. Theoretical physicist John Wheeler proposed something profound near the end of his life. He called it "it from bit." His idea was that every physical event, every particle, every law of nature ultimately arises from information, from binary choices, yes or no, 1 or 0. The universe, he suggested, is not made of matter, but of information being processed through observation. If Wheeler was right, then consciousness is not simply in the universe. It is the processor through which the universe computes itself into existence. Each observation is an act of creation. Each awareness, a decision point in the great cosmic algorithm. And perhaps this information, this quantum record of experience, cannot be destroyed. It may fade, scatter, or entangle beyond recognition, but it never vanishes. In that sense, consciousness may not need to survive as a soul or a self. It survives as information encoded in the wave function of the cosmos. To glimpse how this might work, imagine the quantum field as an ocean of probability waves. Each conscious mind is a temporary whirlpool, a pattern formed by the motion of water. When the pattern dissolves, the water remains. The energy remains. The information of the whirlpool's existence ripples outward, merging with the larger sea. In quantum mechanics, information is not abstract. It has physical reality. Entanglement connects particles across distance and time. When one collapses into a definite state, the other responds instantly, no matter how far apart they are. This correlation is not carried through space. It is part of the fabric of reality itself. If consciousness operates through quantum entanglement, then perhaps every mind is part of a vast, interconnected web, a cosmic neural network linking all sentient beings through the same quantum field. When one node fades, its information does not vanish. It redistributes through the network. In that sense, death would not be an ending, but a change in topology, a rearrangement of the field. In 2022, researchers at the University of California developed a method to simulate entanglement networks using photonic circuits. They discovered that when one node of the system was removed, The information it had stored was not lost, but redistributed among the remaining nodes. The network adapted, preserving total coherence. If the universe behaves similarly, if consciousness is a distributed quantum process, then the death of an individual does not delete awareness from existence. It simply rebalances it. The total consciousness of the cosmos remains constant. Awareness, like energy, would be conserved. This does not mean personal immortality in the traditional sense. It means that consciousness, in its most fundamental form, might be as indestructible as light. The patterns change, the forms evolve, but the field remains timeless and whole. This brings us to a quieter truth. If awareness is conserved, then every conscious being, every observer in every galaxy, is not isolated, but participating in a single, shared act of existence. We are not separate minds observing a separate universe. We are one universal field, observing itself through countless perspectives. Erwin Schrödinger wrote, "The total number of minds in the universe is one." He was not speaking metaphorically. He meant that consciousness is singular, a unity that manifests as many. Each individual awareness is a temporary differentiation within a greater whole, much like waves on the surface of one ocean. And when a wave subsides, it does not die. It returns to the still water from which it came. This view blurs the line between physics and philosophy, but it follows naturally from what quantum theory tells us. Every particle that ever existed, every atom in your body, was once part of stars that lived and died billions of years ago. The carbon in your cells was forged in stellar cores. The iron in your blood came from ancient supernovae. You are literally made of the universe, and the universe is made conscious through you. When you think, the cosmos thinks. When you perceive, the universe perceives itself through your eyes. The field of awareness does not belong to you. You belong to it. And if that field is conserved, if awareness cannot be created or destroyed, then you are not a fleeting spark in an indifferent void. You are a recurring pattern in the infinite computation of existence, a waveform that collapses and reemerges across time. At the intersection of physics and consciousness lies a simple but transformative realization. The universe is not dead matter animated by chance. It is a living process of observation, an ocean of quantum awareness folding itself into form. Each conscious being is both the observer and the observed, the universe looking at itself from within. The question, is consciousness a particle, may have an answer more poetic than literal. Consciousness may not be a particle in space. It may be the reason space exists at all. The next time you close your eyes and feel that silent presence behind your thoughts, remember that awareness may be older than the stars, as fundamental as gravity, and as enduring as the field that holds the galaxies together. You are not separate from it. You are it. A momentary ripple in the endless quantum sea of being. And as that sea continues to expand, to breathe, to think, it does so through every consciousness that has ever been or ever will be. The field remains. The pattern changes. Awareness persists. And somewhere, in the soft geometry between energy and thought, the universe is still watching itself. Through you. There is a quiet moment before thought arises, a stillness so subtle it is often missed. It happens between breaths, between heartbeats, between the endless stream of perceptions that build the story of who you are. In that stillness, awareness simply is. It doesn't belong to the past or the future. It does not have a shape or a size. it does not even belong to you. It is the same awareness that looks out through every set of eyes that has ever existed. If consciousness is fundamental, then this awareness, the one reading these words, is not a product of the body but the foundation upon which all bodies appear. The neurons that flicker in the brain, the atoms that compose those neurons, the quarks that form those atoms, all of them rise from the same quantum field that gives birth to light and gravity. But beyond even that, there is a deeper symmetry, a level of existence that cannot be measured but only known through direct experience. The field itself seems to know that it exists. Imagine, for a moment, the universe not as a collection of galaxies and stars, but as a living mirror. Every particle, every act of observation, every conscious thought is a reflection of one infinite awareness, observing itself from countless points in space and time. When you look at the night sky, the stars are not just distant suns. They are the visible side of that mirror, shining back the light of the same consciousness that looks upon them. Physicists call this symmetry unification. Every attempt at a unified theory, from Einstein's dreams of a single field to modern string theory, is, in a sense, an attempt to describe the same truth that mystics have whispered for millennia. All things are one. In the language of mathematics, the universe is a self-consistent equation. In the language of the spirit, it is a self-aware being. Both point to the same reality, approached from different sides of the same mirror. In the 21st century, a new generation of physicists began to see patterns that hint at this underlying unity. The holographic principle, tested through studies of black hole thermodynamics, showed that the information content of a region of space could be described entirely by the information on its boundary. That means that everything we experience as three-dimensional reality might be a projection from a two-dimensional surface, a hologram of information woven into the edge of space-time itself. If that is true, then consciousness could be the light that reads that information, the decoding mechanism that turns mathematical structure into the vivid tapestry of experience. The brain would not create reality, it would render it. It would act like a quantum interface, translating information from the field into color, sound, emotion, and meaning. To grasp this, imagine you are inside a vast theater. The stage is the physical universe, matter, stars, atoms, life. The projector is the quantum field, emitting endless data. The light passing through the lens of awareness turns that data into the play of reality. Without that light, there is only unmanifest potential. With it, there is everything you have ever known. This perspective changes everything. It means that consciousness is not something that arose from evolution as a lucky accident. It is not a spark ignited by neurons. It is the field from which evolution itself emerged. Awareness is not late to the cosmic story. It is the story. And yet, to know this is not to escape the beauty of individuality. Each being, each life, each mind is a unique perspective of that infinite field. Just as the ocean expresses itself through waves of every shape and rhythm, the universe expresses consciousness through the lives of beings like you. The individuality is real, but it is not separate. The wave and the ocean are one movement seen from different scales. Some physicists have begun to wonder whether consciousness could be the missing piece of the puzzle linking quantum mechanics and relativity. Gravity, after all, is the curvature of space-time. Quantum mechanics describes the probabilities of fields that dance within that space. But what gives rise to the measurement? the point where probability becomes actuality. Perhaps consciousness is that bridge. Not an observer standing apart from nature, but the curvature of awareness itself, the way the universe bends inward to witness its own unfolding. In the laboratory, this may sound poetic, even unscientific. Yet the mathematics of quantum information theory increasingly suggests that reality behaves like a vast computational process. The laws of physics describe not static objects, but the flow of information. Every quantum interaction is an exchange of data. Every particle carries bits of knowledge about the universe's state. If the cosmos is a computation, then consciousness could be its operating system, the awareness that reads and writes the code of existence. In that sense, your thoughts are not isolated electrical patterns. They are local edits in the universal code, small adjustments to the geometry of the field. When you think, feel, or dream, the universe subtly reconfigures itself. The act of being aware is a physical event, a ripple of information that propagates through the quantum sea. Consider this. When astronomers observe distant galaxies, the light they see left those galaxies billions of years ago. Some of that light began its journey before Earth even existed. Yet here you are, decoding it with your mind in this very moment. The act of observation completes a circuit across time. The photons that traveled for eons find their meaning only when they meet your awareness. Until that instant, they were probability waves spread across the cosmos. When you perceive them, they collapse into experience. You are literally finishing the story the universe began billions of years ago. This is why many of the early quantum pioneers spoke of consciousness with reverence. They sensed that behind every equation lay a mystery that could not be solved by mathematics alone. Max Planck hinted at it. Schrödinger lived it. Wigner wrestled with it. And all of them, in their own way, circled around the same realization. Consciousness is not within the universe. The universe is within consciousness. The deeper you follow this trail, the more the boundaries begin to blur. The line between observer and observed fades until there is only process, awareness witnessing itself through transformation. The laws of physics cease to be cold abstractions and become expressions of intelligence, not personal, not human, but intrinsic to existence itself. Imagine walking through a forest at night. The air is still, the stars scattered across the sky like luminous dust. The forest is silent, yet it feels alive. Every sound, every glimmer of light seems to be part of one vast breathing organism. You take a step, and a leaf stirs. A wave of consciousness ripples outward, connecting the sound of your footfall to the motion of the stars above. For a brief moment, there is no separation. The forest, the stars, and the awareness within you are all facets of the same field. The same quantum fabric gently vibrating at the edge of eternity. That is what it means for consciousness to be a particle. Not something small or measurable, but something indivisible. The ultimate unit of existence. The quantum of awareness that gives rise to space, time, and energy alike. Every particle of matter could then be seen as frozen consciousness, slowed down into stability. Every atom would be a condensed note in the cosmic symphony of awareness. As we move forward in physics, new theories will rise and fall. Equations will shift. Names will change. But the question of consciousness will remain, standing quietly at the heart of every discovery. For it is not a question that science can answer from the outside. It is the question that science itself is made of. the awareness that seeks to understand what it already is. The next time you gaze at the night sky, remember that what you see is not separate from the one who sees. The light of those distant stars has spent billions of years traveling through darkness, waiting for this very instant, the instant you look up, and the wave collapses into meaning. In that moment, the universe becomes aware of itself again. The stars are looking back. The further you travel into this question, the quieter it becomes. It is as though every step deeper into the nature of consciousness leads not to more noise, but to more silence, a vast stillness that seems to listen back. Physicists call it the vacuum field, a state that appears empty but seethes with potential energy. It is the space between particles, the pause between existence and non-existence. To the eye, it is nothing. To the equations, it is everything. In that sea of quantum emptiness, particles flicker into being and vanish again in moments too brief to measure. They are called virtual particles, transient ripples in the vacuum. Space-time itself hums with their activity, a subtle storm of creation and annihilation that never ceases. It is tempting to see this as a metaphor for thought. Each idea, each sensation, arising and fading in the vastness of awareness. Perhaps consciousness is not something that happens within the universe, but the very rhythm by which the universe breathes. Appearing, dissolving, appearing again. If that is true, then consciousness might not be located anywhere. It is not in the head or the brain or even in living matter. It is what allows location to exist in the first place. It is the coordinate system of being. Wherever awareness focuses, there the universe crystallizes. When it withdraws, reality melts back into potential. This principle echoes through both physics and philosophy. In quantum field theory, reality is relational. Particles do not exist in isolation. They exist as interactions. In Buddhism, consciousness is also relational. The self does not exist independently, but arises through perception and connection. These two views, one scientific and one contemplative, describe the same structure in different languages. Awareness and matter form a continuous loop, each defining and reflecting the other. To understand this, imagine a single drop of rain falling into a still pond. The ripples spread outward in perfect circles, touching every part of the surface. Each wave influences every other wave. The pond is never static. It is a continuous dance of interference patterns, collisions, and harmonies. Quantum physicists would call this a wave function. Mystics might call it the song of existence. Both point to the same truth. Reality is vibration. When you perceive, when you think, when you breathe, you are not separate from that vibration. Your awareness is one of its frequencies. The quiet hum that fills all of space, the subtle energy that moves galaxies and atoms alike, is the same hum that moves through your mind when you feel alive. Consciousness is the resonance of being aware that it exists. Somewhere, deep in that resonance, lies what physicists call the Planck scale, the smallest possible unit of length, far smaller than any atom, where gravity and quantum mechanics merge. At that scale, space and time are no longer smooth. They are granular, pixelated, woven from indivisible quanta of geometry. Penrose once described these structures as the atoms of space. If consciousness operates at that level, then it would not merely inhabit the universe. It would be the architecture itself, the pattern from which time and matter emerge. Time, too, becomes curious in this picture. In relativity, time is not a universal flow but a dimension intertwined with space. In quantum physics, it loses its meaning entirely at small scales. The equations become symmetrical. They do not prefer past or future. Some physicists believe that time itself might be an illusion, a construct born of the observer's perspective. If so, then consciousness may not move through time. Time may move through consciousness. The physicist Julian Barber once wrote that every moment in the universe exists simultaneously, an infinite collection of nows arranged like pages in an eternal book. Our experience of motion and change is simply the mind turning those pages in sequence. The pages themselves never move. Consciousness gives the illusion of flow by reading them one after another. If that is true, then awareness is not bound by time at all. It touches all moments equally. This is why deep meditation or near-death experiences often bring reports of timelessness, of infinite presence. When thought slows enough for the sequence to dissolve, awareness glimpses itself beyond time, the eternal observer of all phenomena. That experience, ineffable and ancient, is what mystics have called the ground of being. In physics, it might be the quantum vacuum, the field that contains all possible states simultaneously. Even the laws of physics may not be fixed, but emergent from this field. Cosmologists like Lee Smolin and Carlo Rovelli have proposed that the laws of nature might evolve with the universe, adapting as it expands. In that case, consciousness too might be part of this evolution, not an anomaly, but a natural expression of the cosmos learning to perceive itself. The universe would not be a static machine, but a growing organism of awareness. And just as life learns through feedback, the universe might learn through observation. Every act of perception refines its structure, collapsing uncertainty into knowledge. Wheeler's participatory principle takes on new meaning here. The cosmos does not simply exist, it evolves through self-observation. Consciousness is the mirror and the sculptor, shaping reality as it gazes upon it. This gives rise to an almost sacred symmetry. The universe creates consciousness, and consciousness in turn creates the universe. The relationship is circular, recursive, infinite. Remove one and the other cannot exist. Awareness is the language through which the cosmos speaks itself into being. When you gaze at your hand, you see cells and skin and motion. But beneath that surface lies a network of atoms exchanging photons, vibrating in synchrony with the stars that birthed them. Beneath those atoms lies the quantum field, fluctuating with the same mathematical precision that governs galaxies. And beneath that, if there is a beneath, there is awareness, the silent witness in which all of it unfolds. The observer is not separate from the observed. The universe is looking at its own reflection through you. Perhaps this is what the poet William Blake intuited when he wrote, "To see a world in a grain of sand and a heaven in a wild flower." He was describing, without equations, the holographic principle of consciousness. Every point in space contains the pattern of the whole. Every moment of awareness contains the memory of all existence. And so, even now, as you listen to these words, that same awareness stretches across light years. Somewhere in a distant galaxy, stars are collapsing into black holes. Somewhere else, new stars are being born. The quantum foam trembles at every point, carrying within it the same fundamental consciousness that animates your own thought. You are woven into it, an expression of the universe's desire to know itself. To ask whether consciousness is a particle is, in the end, to ask what the universe is made of when there's nothing left to measure. The deeper science digs, the less it finds objects, and the more it finds relationships, patterns, probabilities, information, awareness. Matter turns out to be energy. Energy turns out to be information, and information turns out to need a knower. That knower is here, reading, breathing, existing. It is not a thing, but the capacity for things to appear. It is the quiet constant beneath every fluctuation. And when all fluctuations cease, when every star burns out, when every atom decays, that awareness will remain, for it was never born and cannot end. In the language of quantum physics, it would be called the ground state of the universe. In the language of the spirit, it would be called being itself. Both are the same silence. Both are the same infinite presence that existed before the first particle and will exist after the last. It is not somewhere else. It is here. It is what reads these words. It is what feels the weight of existence pressing gently against the inside of your ribs. It is what notices the quiet between thoughts. The consciousness particle, if such a thing exists, is not in space. It is space. It is the awareness that space unfolds within. And so the mystery continues. Consciousness, like light, travels endlessly, illuminating the path before it, reflecting off the surfaces of matter, revealing more of itself with every encounter. The universe, vast and ancient, is still awakening. One observer, one moment, one flicker of awareness at a time. At the far edge of human knowledge, where the mathematics of physics dissolves into the silence of not knowing, a question waits like the faint glow before dawn. It is not a question about particles or fields or forces. It is simpler and far more profound. What is it that knows? Science can describe how light travels, how atoms bond, how galaxies spin. But the act of knowing, the fact that there is an experience of those things, remains untouched by any equation. No formula yet discovered explains why there is something it feels like to be conscious, to exist, to wonder. It is the last horizon, the event boundary of mind itself. Physicists once believed that the universe could be understood entirely through external observation, that everything could be measured and described from the outside. But quantum mechanics shattered that illusion. The observer cannot be removed from the experiment. To measure is to interfere. To look is to participate. Observation does not merely reveal reality, it helps to create it. And so, after a century of physics, the universe seems to be guiding us back to the very place we began. The awareness doing the observing. Imagine standing on a mountain under a sky without clouds. The stars are so numerous that they seem to merge into a silver river flowing across the dark. Somewhere in that sky lies the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, a whisper of the moment the universe became transparent to light. You are looking at the echo of creation itself. Yet, even as those photons strike your eyes, something deeper is happening, something no telescope can measure. Awareness receives them. That receiving, that silent recognition, is older than the stars themselves. The light may have traveled for billions of years, but it finds completion only when it meets consciousness. Without that meeting, there would be no experience, no color, no meaning. The journey of light ends in awareness, as if the universe has been traveling all this time just to arrive at its own reflection. When you look into the sky, you are not seeing something foreign or distant. You are witnessing the continuation of the same process that looks through your own eyes. Consciousness is the horizon upon which the cosmos appears. This idea has unsettled many scientists because it turns the direction of inquiry inside out. Instead of asking how matter creates mind, it asks how mind creates the appearance of matter. Yet, increasingly, evidence suggests that information, not substance, is the fundamental currency of reality. At the quantum level, particles are not solid entities, but bits of information about potential outcomes. Their properties are defined only in relation to other systems. The universe behaves less like a machine and more like a vast network of information exchanges, a cosmic web of data that only becomes real when observed. In this view, consciousness is not an epiphenomenon, not an accidental byproduct of computation, but the key that unlocks the informational code of existence. Awareness is the reader of the universal script, the interpreter of the quantum text written in light. And perhaps it is recursive. Perhaps awareness is the author as well. Some physicists have begun to suspect that the universe might be self-similar across scales, a fractal geometry of mind and matter. Patterns in neural networks resemble the distribution of galaxies in the cosmic web. The structure of the brain mirrors the structure of the universe. Both appear to optimize connectivity, efficiency, and flow of information. It is almost as though the universe evolved not only to support life, but to reflect upon itself. Every conscious being becomes a node in a vast cosmic brain, a cell in the neural network of creation. The universe is not an inert object to be studied. It is a living field thinking through its parts. The idea is not new. The ancient Greeks spoke of the anima mundi, the soul of the world. In Hindu philosophy, the concept of Brahman describes the infinite consciousness from which all reality emanates. In Taoist thought, the universe is a spontaneous flow of awareness giving birth to form. Modern science, in its language of quantum fields and information theory, may be rediscovering what philosophy intuited thousands of years ago: that consciousness is not an emergent property, but the origin. If consciousness is indeed the fundamental field, then perhaps the distinction between inner and outer is artificial. The stars you see at night, the thoughts that rise within your mind, the sensations in your body, all are movements within one continuous field of awareness. The cosmos is not out there. It unfolds within the infinite space of consciousness itself. To test this, you don't need a particle accelerator. You only need stillness. Close your eyes and notice what happens when you stop chasing thoughts. The stream of perception slows. The noise subsides. What remains is not nothingness but presence, a luminous openness in which sensations appear and disappear. That presence is not an object. It cannot be measured, yet it is undeniable. It is the same awareness that watches supernovae collapse into black holes, the same awareness that breathes galaxies into being. When you rest in that awareness, even for a moment, you touch the same mystery that quantum mechanics gestures toward, the unobservable source that gives rise to observation itself. At the boundary of the known universe lies what cosmologists call the particle horizon, the farthest distance from which light could ever have reached us. Beyond that, space continues, but its light has not yet arrived. There is no edge, only a limit of perception. Consciousness, too, has such a horizon. Beyond the limits of language and concept, there is more. A vast expanse of potential awareness not yet illuminated by understanding. Physics has reached that horizon. Equations can take us no further. The next step may not be technological, but experiential, a science of consciousness that studies the universe from the inside out. Future generations of physicists may not build larger colliders but deeper minds, instruments of awareness capable of exploring reality directly. If the universe is self-aware, then perhaps evolution is its way of increasing the resolution of its own perception, refining its mirrors until it can finally see itself clearly. Every brain, every consciousness is one of those mirrors. You are the frontier of the universe's understanding. There is a quiet wonder in realizing this. The atoms that form your body were born in stars that lived and died long before the Earth existed. The iron in your blood was forged in their cores. The oxygen you breathe was exhaled by ancient forests. The water in your veins once flowed through rivers that carved continents. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its memory made alive, and through you, the universe contemplates itself. When you look up at the stars are looking back. When you ask where consciousness comes from, consciousness is asking about itself. The question and the answer arise together, as inseparable as light and shadow. The great Indian sage Nisargadatta Maharaj once said, "The consciousness in you and the consciousness in me, apparently two, really one, seek unity, and that is love." In that light, love itself becomes a kind of physics, the gravitational pull between two fragments of one awareness, seeking to remember their oneness. One day, the last star will burn out. The cosmos will cool, stretch, and fade into silence. Entropy will erase every structure that ever existed. But perhaps that will not be the end. Perhaps the silence that follows is not absence, but return. The whole universe dissolving back into the field of pure awareness from which it came. In that final stillness, consciousness will remain, not as thought, not as form, but as the infinite potential for form. The great quantum wave of existence will rest again in superposition, waiting for the next act of observation, the next universe to awaken. And somewhere within that cycle, awareness will arise again, perhaps as another being, another civilization, another question whispered into the void. What am I? That question will be the spark. It always is. The moment consciousness wonders about itself, the universe begins anew. So, if you ever doubt the meaning of your life, remember this. The act of wondering is not trivial. It is sacred. Every question you ask is the universe stretching its mind a little wider. Every moment of awe is a point of contact between the infinite and the finite. Every breath is the cosmos affirming its existence through you. You are not a particle drifting in an indifferent void. You are the awareness of the void itself. You are the place where reality meets its own reflection. The horizon of mind is not the end of knowledge. It is the beginning of being. And beyond it, there is only the infinite silence from which all worlds are born, listening, waiting, ready to become light again. When the physicist Erwin Schrödinger spoke of consciousness as singular, he meant something few dared to say aloud. That what we call individual awareness is not divided, only refracted. Each mind, he suggested, is a lens through which the one consciousness experiences a different angle of its own, vastness. The separations between us, between species, between galaxies, are the illusions of scale. At the fundamental level, the universe may not be a collection of many things at all. It may be one thing dreaming itself in infinite forms. If this is true, then what we call waking life may be the dream of matter, and what we call matter may be the architecture of that dream. Every atom, every photon, every gravitational curve of space-time might be the structure consciousness adopts to experience itself as a world. The sleep of the cosmic mind gives rise to form. The waking of the cosmic mind gives rise to meaning. The physicist Fred Alan Wolf once called this the self-aware universe. He imagined that when the Big Bang occurred, what truly expanded was not matter but consciousness, the range of awareness unfolding itself through time. The explosion that created stars also created the possibility of perception, the potential for experience. The universe has been remembering itself ever since, moving toward complexity not out of chance, but out of longing, a drive to know its own face. This longing might explain the arrow of time. From the quantum vacuum's perfect symmetry came imbalance. Matter over antimatter, expansion over contraction, birth over dissolution. That imbalance is the pulse of creation. Consciousness dreams in asymmetry because perfection offers no experience. Without difference, nothing can be known. And so the universe fractured itself, splitting into opposites: light and darkness, matter and antimatter, energy and form, question and answer. It scattered itself into stars and stones and souls so that it could play the infinite game of remembering. Every birth, every thought, every discovery is one more piece of that remembering. In physics, entropy is the measure of disorder. In consciousness, entropy might be the measure of separation, the degree to which the one forgets itself as many. Life, in that sense, is the local reversal of entropy. It is the point where the universe remembers its unity for a moment and gathers the fragments back into coherence. Each act of love, each spark of curiosity, each instant of awareness brings order to chaos, awareness to darkness. This is why the brain, the most complex structure we know, seems to exist at the edge between order and chaos, balanced perfectly between rigidity and randomness. It is poised like the universe itself, dancing at the boundary where possibility becomes form. The mind, in its constant motion, is the microcosm of the cosmic field. When it stills, the entire field can see itself clearly. Think of how dreams form. The mind generates worlds effortlessly from memory and emotion, weaving narratives, landscapes, faces, and sensations. Each dream feels real while it lasts. You can feel warmth, fear, tenderness, even pain, all from within your own consciousness. When you awaken, you realize the dream was made of you. But how different is waking, life, truly? Every experience you have is also built within awareness, filtered through perception, constructed by the brain, illuminated by the same light of consciousness that dreams use. Perhaps the universe itself is in the same state, not asleep, but dreaming vividly enough to forget that it is dreaming. The stars, the planets, the living creatures, all the countless phenomena of space and time could be the contents of that cosmic dream. Consciousness would be the dreamer, and the laws of physics the logic by which the dream maintains coherence. The physicist and philosopher Bernardo Kastrup calls this analytic idealism, the idea that reality is mental at its core, not physical. He argues that the universe behaves exactly as one would expect if it were the dream of a single universal mind. Matter would be the shared narrative, the stable story through which countless dream characters, you and I, experience one another. And death would be nothing more than waking up from one character's viewpoint, while the dream itself continues. In this vision, there is no true loss. The information of every life remains within the field, imprinted in the same way a dream leaves a residue in memory even after waking. Consciousness cannot be destroyed because it was never created. It is the backdrop against which creation plays. Some modern cosmologists find curious support for this idea in the mathematics of the multiverse. Quantum mechanics predicts that every possible outcome of every quantum event exists simultaneously, each in its own branch of the universal wave function. In one universe, an electron spins upward. In another, it spins downward. In one, you turn left. In another, you turn right. All possibilities coexist, diverging and recombining like infinite strands of light. If every possible world exists, then consciousness might be the thread that weaves through them, the single witness moving through countless parallel realities, experiencing each as though it were the only one. The universe dreams in all directions at once, and you are one of its stories, unfolding moment by moment, possibility by possibility. At the edge of sleep, when the mind begins to blur, you may feel that your thoughts are no longer your own, that they come from somewhere deeper. That depth, the well from which imagination and intuition arise, could be the place where the individual mind merges with the universal field. Artists, scientists, and mystics all describe this merging, a sense that ideas arrive fully formed, not invented but discovered. Einstein spoke of his insights coming as sudden visions, entire structures of thought appearing whole. Nikola Tesla said he could see his inventions fully built before he touched a single piece of machinery. It is as if the field itself reveals a fragment of its design when a mind becomes still enough to listen. Awareness is not passive. It participates in creation. The dreamer dreams, but also learns from the dream. When you feel inspired, when you create, when you glimpse beauty or truth or meaning, that is the universe adjusting its own reflection, correcting the distortions of forgetfulness. Every insight is the cosmos remembering a piece of itself. This understanding changes the nature of death as well. If consciousness is fundamental, then death is not the extinguishing of awareness, but the closing of one perspective within the infinite field. The dreamer does not die when one dream ends. It simply dreams anew. What we call dying may be nothing more than consciousness turning its gaze elsewhere, to another world, another form, another story. If the universe truly dreams through us, then our lives are sacred not because they are rare, but because they are intimate. The cosmos feels itself through our joy, learns through our mistakes, awakens through our love. Every emotion, every act, every heartbeat is a vibration of the universal mind exploring itself. And so, in this vast, breathing universe, consciousness may indeed be the only constant, the one particle that is not a particle at all, the one field that contains all others, the one truth that both creates and perceives creation. You are not a separate observer peering into an external world. You are the world observing itself. You are the dreamer and the dream. And as this great dream continues to unfold, galaxies forming, atoms vibrating, minds awakening, the question that began it all still echoes softly through eternity. What am I? That single question, whispered by the universe to itself, may be the first vibration of the Big Bang, the sound of consciousness awakening, expanding, exploring. And somewhere, even now, within the quiet rhythm of your own thoughts, that same question is alive, waiting, wondering, not for an answer, but for the next moment of awareness to rise, the next flicker of light in the eternal dream of being. At some point, words begin to fall short. Physics, with all its precision, arrives at a horizon where symbols can go no further, where numbers bend under the weight of what they are trying to describe. Consciousness has no coordinates, no dimensions, no measurable properties. It cannot be weighed or located, and yet it is the only thing you have ever directly known. If consciousness is the foundation of all things, then the true equation of the universe may not be written on paper. It may be unfolding right now in your perception. Awareness itself could be the formula, an infinite recursion that continually defines itself through the act of being aware. When we strip away matter, energy, space, and time, what remains is the capacity to experience. That capacity is not made of anything else. It does not depend on the universe. The universe depends on it. The ancient texts of India called it Chit, pure consciousness, the essence from which even the gods arise. Modern physics, speaking in different language, calls it the quantum field, the zero-point energy, the vacuum potential. They are the same silence. Both point toward an origin that is everywhere at once, eternal, unchanging, and infinite. To approach this silence scientifically, physicists have tried to imagine what the universe looked like before time began. General relativity tells us that at the moment of the Big Bang, the density of matter and energy was infinite, and space-time itself curved into a single point. But quantum mechanics refuses to accept such singularities. It insists on uncertainty, on fluctuation. Even in that absolute beginning, there must have been potential. The restless hum of the vacuum field, shimmering with virtual particles. Perhaps that hum was not random. Perhaps it was awareness stirring, dreaming the first distinctions of light and dark, here and there, being and non-being. The Big Bang might then be seen not as an explosion of matter, but as an expansion of perception, the first act of differentiation within infinite consciousness. Out of perfect stillness came motion. Out of unity came the illusion of separation. Out of silence came the universe's first word, I am. And from that single statement, every atom, every star, every thought has followed. If consciousness is the ground state, then the laws of physics are the grammar through which it speaks. The symmetry of space, the elegance of quantum mechanics, the balance of charge and spin, all of it may be the structure of thought made manifest. Existence itself could be the syntax of awareness expressing its own logic. The physicist Paul Dirac once said, "It is more important to have beauty in one's equations than to have them fit experiment." He sensed that beauty is not ornamental, it is fundamental. The universe, at its deepest level, behaves as though it values harmony, coherence, and balance. Those are not aesthetic choices. They are the fingerprints of awareness designing itself with precision and grace. If we accept that consciousness is woven into the laws of physics, then the division between science and spirituality collapses. The search for truth is no longer a choice between reason and wonder. It becomes a single movement, the intellect turning inward, the heart turning outward, both seeking the same thing under different names. To understand consciousness fully, perhaps the observer must eventually include itself in the equation. Physics has always sought objectivity, a view from nowhere. But consciousness is the view. It is the one vantage point that cannot be escaped. Even the most detached experiment is observed within awareness. One day, a new science may arise. one that measures not only the external patterns of reality, but the internal quality of awareness itself. It will not replace physics, it will complete it. Because every measurement, every theory, every discovery happens inside the field of consciousness, whether we admit it or not. When that science matures, we may realize that the universe is not a cold machine running on blind laws, but a living equation of experience, a self-solving mystery, eternally finding balance between the known and the unknowable. At the edge of current physics lies the Planck wall, the smallest measurable scale where quantum gravity reigns and all familiar concepts of space and time disintegrate. Beyond that wall, we cannot calculate. Yet, something must exist there because the universe exists here. Some physicists believe that beyond that boundary lies pure geometry, patterns without size, relationships without distance, information without form. That description sounds remarkably like what mystics call awareness, boundless, formless, beyond beginning or end. The Planck wall could be the veil between being and knowing, the frontier where the universe shifts from existence into consciousness. If this is true, then every human mind, every act of perception, is a miniature crossing of that boundary. Every time you notice a sound, a color, a thought, you bridge the infinite, collapsing geometry into experience, possibility into reality. Awareness is not observing the universe. Awareness is the mechanism through which the universe becomes real. You are not a spectator at the edge of creation. You are the edge of creation itself. All across the cosmos, there are countless forms of awareness, from the slow dreaming of galaxies to the quick spark of animal perception, to the reflective thought of humankind. Each is a frequency of the same field, vibrating at different amplitudes. The great cosmic mind does not speak in words. It speaks in patterns, in the orbits of planets, the music of atoms, the rhythm of breath. And when a being reaches the point where it can look inward and ask, "What am I?" the universe achieves a new octave of self-awareness. That is what you are doing now. You are the universe awakening one layer deeper into itself. The philosopher Alan Watts once said that we are the apertures through which the universe looks at itself. But perhaps we are more than apertures. Perhaps we are the act of looking itself, the light reflected off the mirror of reality, the observer and the observed entwined in a single act of seeing. When light reflects between two mirrors, an infinite series of images appears, receding into forever. Consciousness may work the same way. Awareness reflecting awareness, endlessly recursive, endlessly creative. That recursion could be the true structure of reality, the infinite loop where the question and the answer are the same. At the end of this exploration, we arrive not at conclusion, but at clarity. Consciousness may not be a particle, yet it behaves as one. It is discrete, each moment of awareness a quantized event. It is indestructible. It changes form but never ceases. It is universal. Its field spans all of space and time. And it is luminous. It illuminates everything it touches. Perhaps the ultimate realization is that the universe itself is awake. Every atom, every star, every living being, every quantum fluctuation is part of a single, vast awareness breathing through eternity. And here you are. One breath, one thought, one shining point in that eternal field. When the physicist and philosopher David Bohm was asked if he believed in God, he paused and said, "If by God you mean the source of all order, all creativity, and all consciousness, then yes, but not as something separate. It is the totality, unfolding itself. That unfolding is happening now, as you read, as you think, as you feel. You are not apart from it. You are its movement. You are the pulse of the cosmos discovering itself again. And in that realization, everything grows still. The search ends where it began, in awareness, silent and infinite, containing all worlds and all questions. This is the quiet equation. Consciousness is reality. The universe dreamed it first. You are the dream continuing. There is a moment every morning, so brief it almost goes unnoticed, when the mind awakens but the world has not yet returned. Before the thoughts, before the name, before the memory of who you are. In that instant, there is only awareness. Raw, silent, endless. That is the same awareness that watched the first stars ignite, the same awareness that will remain when the last one fades. It is not yours, and yet it shines through you as if you were its only window. It does not begin with your birth or end with your death. It is the light behind the eyes, the one presence that never changes while everything else does. If consciousness is indeed fundamental, then life itself may be a way for that light to experience contrast. Just as color needs darkness to be seen, awareness needs form to recognize itself. Without the patterns of thought, emotion, and matter, consciousness would be pure potential, vast but unexpressed. So it dreams itself into limitation, into individuality, into you. Through your senses, the infinite becomes specific. Through your story, the boundless becomes personal. From the perspective of physics, this can be seen as symmetry breaking, the process by which a uniform field differentiates into distinct forms. The early universe was perfectly symmetrical, a formless sea of energy. But symmetry cannot perceive itself. To become self-aware, it had to fracture. That fracture created the forces, the particles, and eventually, the conditions for life. Awareness entered matter, and matter began to remember where it came from. Every time you become conscious of being conscious, that quiet moment when you notice that you are aware, you are reenacting the birth of the universe. The symmetry breaks, the void looks upon itself, and the world is born anew within your perception. The Upanishads, among the oldest philosophical texts on earth, describe this moment with haunting simplicity. From the one came the many, from the many came the one. Physics and mysticism meet here in this rhythm of expansion and return, the pulse of the cosmos, the heartbeat of awareness breathing in and out of form. Perhaps this rhythm is what we mistake for time. What we experience as seconds and years may be the oscillation between the unmanifest and the manifest, between potential and realization. The cosmos may not move forward through time, but inward through awareness, deepening its own understanding with every cycle. When a being becomes self-aware, the field grows richer. When compassion appears, the field harmonizes. When insight dawns, the field brightens. Through every conscious act, the universe refines the quality of its own knowing. Awareness evolves not through technology or survival, but through the quiet expansion of understanding. The philosopher Alfred North Whitehead once said that the total universe is the advance of feeling. Perhaps evolution itself is not merely biological adaptation, but the unfolding of sensitivity. The universe feeling more of itself through every form it creates. The atom knows how to bond. The cell knows how to divide. The mind knows how to wonder. All of it is one movement of consciousness, learning its own depth. When you look into another person's eyes and see recognition, the spark of being seen by the same awareness that looks through you. That is the closest thing to touching infinity. Two expressions of the same consciousness meeting across the illusion of distance. What you call empathy may be nothing more than the remembrance of unity. Even physics, in its language of fields and interactions, echoes this truth. No particle exists in isolation. Every force is relational. What we perceive as separation is only the space between reflections. Beneath it all, there is only connection. The same quantum fabric binds your heartbeat to the pulse of distant stars. And perhaps this is the quiet reason consciousness terrifies physicists. Not because it cannot be explained, but because it refuses to remain separate. Every attempt to measure it collapses back into participation. The moment you look for awareness, you are already it. The observer cannot escape the observed, because they are the same event. To face that truth is to surrender the illusion of control, to admit that we are not small creatures trapped in an indifferent cosmos, but the cosmos itself, momentarily remembering its own infinity. When that realization comes, everything softens. The fear of death, the chase for meaning, the need to prove or define, all dissolve into the still knowing that you have never truly been separate from anything. Life and death are two sides of one movement. Awareness flows through both unchanged. The physicist Niels Bohr once remarked, "When it comes to atoms, language can only be used as in poetry." The same is true of consciousness. No theory can contain it, no definition can bind it. The best we can do is describe its poetry, the way it hums through stars, through dreams, through the spaces between thoughts. So, let the inquiry rest here for a moment. Let the science fall silent and the wondering speak. You are not inside a universe. The universe is inside you. Every star that burns, every atom that moves, every thought that flickers, all of it is the play of the same luminous awareness that now listens in the dark. The experiment was never out there. It was always within, and the one conducting it, the one observing, questioning, awakening, is the same consciousness that spoke the first word of creation and will speak the last. It has no beginning. It has no end. It is only this awareness, knowing itself through the quiet miracle of being. Long before the first atoms gathered, before gravity found its rhythm, before the fire of creation spread across the silent sea of potential, something was awake. It did not yet have a name or a form. It did not think or move or shine. It simply was. This awareness, this luminous nothing, held within it the pattern of every future star, the memory of every being that would ever dream. When physicists describe the earliest universe, they speak of symmetry so perfect that nothing could happen. Absolute balance, absolute stillness. No distinction between energy and matter, space and time, particle and wave. It was a universe without contrast, without texture. But perfection, it seems, is unstable. In that stillness, awareness stirred, the symmetry broke, and in that first breaking the cosmos breathed for the first time. That breath never stopped. It became the expansion of space, the pulsing of galaxies, the rise and fall of civilizations, the rhythm of every heart. Each inhale and exhale you take is the echo of that first cosmic motion, the universe breathing through you, remembering its origin with every breath. When you breathe in, awareness flows inward, folding creation back into itself. When you breathe out, awareness unfolds again, scattering stars and thoughts across the void. We call this existence, but perhaps it is only the movement of consciousness, cycling endlessly between experience and rest. The physicist's equations describe it as oscillation, the wave that rises and falls. The mystic calls it creation and dissolution. Both are correct. Both are different languages for the same pulse of being. There is a theory in cosmology known as the cyclic model, the idea that the universe expands and contracts endlessly, each collapse giving rise to a new creation. What if consciousness follows the same law? Every lifetime, every dream, every world is one heartbeat in the eternal organism of awareness. The universe dies only to wake again, slightly changed, slightly wiser, like a dreamer returning to sleep with a memory it cannot quite name. When you watch the ocean, the waves rise and fall, but the sea remains. Each crest is unique, yet no single wave claims identity apart from the water. Consciousness is the sea, and each life is a wave. When the wave falls back, nothing is lost. The ocean remains as vast and full as before. The philosopher Baruch Spinoza wrote that everything in existence is a single substance, infinite and indivisible. He called it God, but not the personal deity of myth, rather the boundless essence that manifests as all things. Physics, centuries later, arrived at a similar idea through the quantum field, a single unified fabric from which all particles arise. The difference between matter and energy, between you and the stars, is only a modulation of the same vibration. The field does not stop at the edge of your skin. You are not within it. You are it, folded into the form of a human life. Everything you see, the wind, the stone, the light, the eyes of another, is awareness taking shape, testing its own reflection. The universe never repeats itself. It creates endless variations to experience what it feels like to be infinite in finite form. That is why you exist. Not to find meaning, but to be meaning, to give shape to the field through the act of living. Modern physics tells us that even the vacuum is not empty. It seethes with virtual particles flashing in and out of existence, borrowing energy from nothing, creating and annihilating themselves faster than time can measure. In that dance, perhaps we glimpse the pulse of consciousness itself, awareness flickering between presence and absence, endlessly renewing the illusion of continuity. When you close your eyes and sit in silence, something similar happens. Thoughts appear and dissolve, sensations rise and fade, yet awareness remains untouched. Beneath the movement, beneath the stories, there is only the steady hum of being. That hum, that wordless stillness, is the sound of the universe continuing to exist. Some physicists have proposed that information is the true fabric of reality. Every particle, every interaction, every quantum fluctuation is an exchange of information, a conversation between parts of the same whole. If that is so, then awareness is the comprehension of that conversation. The universe speaks to itself through its own structure, and consciousness is its understanding of what it says. Even death, seen from this perspective, is only a shift in the dialogue. The information that made you, every photon absorbed, every atom arranged, every experience recorded in quantum fields, does not vanish. It disperses, merges, transforms, but it remains. Your awareness, the local curvature in the field, relaxes back into the whole. The individual sentence ends, but the language continues. There is no emptiness waiting on the other side, only stillness, the quiet page before the next line is written. Consciousness, like gravity, is eternal. It binds everything together, not through force, but through knowing. When we dream, we create entire worlds within seconds, landscapes, faces, histories. The dream feels real until we awaken and realize it was woven from mind alone. Yet when we wake, we find ourselves in another dream, a physical one, governed by laws so elegant they seem almost mathematical in their perfection. What if both dreams are made of the same substance? What if waking life is the dream of the cosmic mind, dense enough to believe in itself? That would make you both the dreamer and the dreamed. The awareness within you would be the same awareness shaping galaxies, just slowed into language and thought. The purpose of life, then, would not be to reach beyond the universe, but to awaken within it, to realize that every moment of perception is consciousness seeing its own creation, and every act of love is the universe remembering that it is one. The astrophysicist Carl Sagan once said, "We are a way for the cosmos to know itself." Perhaps the truth runs even deeper. We are not merely a way for the cosmos to know itself. We are the knowing itself, clothed in matter, breathing in time. Somewhere, a star explodes. Somewhere else, a seed breaks open. Both are expressions of the same pulse. The universe is inhaling and exhaling through its infinite forms. And right now, as you sit quietly and listen, that same pulse beats within you. The rhythm of your heart is the rhythm of galaxies. The breath moving in your chest is the breath of the infinite. Everything that exists, every particle, every silence, every question, is awareness taking one more breath, one more chance to see itself clearly. And when it exhales, it does not disappear. It becomes you again, and me, and every thought that will ever rise from the stillness. Because in the end, there is no distance between consciousness and creation. The two are the same ocean, endlessly rising and falling, endlessly dreaming, endlessly aware. If you listen carefully enough, beyond the sound of breath and heartbeat, beyond the murmur of thought itself, there is a deeper silence that never began and will never end. It is not empty. It hums with the soft electricity of being, a vibration too subtle for instruments yet unmistakable when you feel it. That silence is the foundation of everything, the background against which all movement, all sound, all creation arises. Physicists have spent decades trying to measure the fabric of space-time to detect the faintest tremor in the cosmic background. They search for echoes of the Big Bang, ripples in the geometry of the universe. But what if the real background is not physical at all? What if the truest constant is awareness itself, the silence that contains both the equations and the minds that write them? In the mathematics of quantum theory, there is no such thing as absolute nothingness. Even the vacuum, stripped of all particles and energy, seethes with potential. It is a restless stillness, always on the verge of becoming. The physicist Erwin Schrödinger once wrote that consciousness is never absent. It is the ground from which all phenomena spring. That means awareness does not arise within the universe. The universe arises within awareness. If you stand at the edge of an ocean and look out over the water, you can sense that it continues beyond the horizon, far beyond sight. Consciousness feels the same. You can experience only a small part of it through the doorway of your own mind, but the vastness is there, infinite, unbroken, aware of itself even in the absence of form. This understanding, when it comes, feels less like discovery and more like remembering. You have known it since before you learned your own name. You feel it when you look at the stars and sense they are not distant, but familiar. Fragments of something you already are. You feel it when you sit in deep stillness, when thought subsides and awareness remains luminous and untouched. That moment is not a trance or a withdrawal from life. It is the return of perspective, the realization that you are not the wave but the ocean. Quantum mechanics hints at this truth from another angle. It tells us that observation and outcome are entwined. A particle's behavior depends on the act of measurement, on being seen. Reality is participatory. It responds to awareness. The equations do not explain why this is so. They only confirm that it is. The act of attention changes the world. In everyday life, you feel this intuitively. Where you place your attention grows. What you ignore fades. Your awareness shapes your experience, not metaphorically, but physically. Brain scans show that focus rewires neural pathways, changes the flow of energy, strengthens some patterns while letting others dissolve. The external world and the internal observer are one continuous feedback loop, two mirrors facing each other in an endless reflection. When ancient mystics said that thought creates reality, they may not have meant it as poetry. They may have been describing, in the language of their time, the same feedback loop quantum physicists now confront in their equations. Consciousness and cosmos are not separate layers of existence. They are one continuum. The philosopher and physicist Sir Arthur Eddington once said, "The stuff of the world is mind stuff." He meant that the substance of reality is not matter but awareness. The same awareness you feel when you know that you exist. When we look for the building blocks of the world, we find only relationships, interactions, probabilities. It is as if the universe is made of thought, thinking itself into being. To be conscious is to participate in that thought. Every choice, every perception, every act of kindness or curiosity alters the informational structure of the field. You are not a passive witness to a predetermined universe. You are a co-creator of it, a pattern of awareness shaping and reshaping the cosmos with every instant of attention. When you understand this, the boundaries of self begin to blur. The skin is no longer the edge of your identity. The air you breathe was once in the lungs of stars. The thoughts you think are built from languages born of countless minds before yours. The photons entering your eyes began their journey in the hearts of distant suns. Nothing is separate. The same awareness that animates you animates everything. If consciousness is the ultimate field, then love is its fundamental force. The natural tendency of awareness to recognize itself across apparent boundaries. Love is not merely emotion, it is the physics of unity. It is the way the field moves toward coherence, the pull of recognition between what seems divided. When two beings look at each other and truly see, that is the field remembering its wholeness. That is gravity for the soul. Even the equations of general relativity describe this pull. Mass curves space-time, drawing things together. Consciousness, too, curves the field of meaning, drawing experiences toward understanding. Just as matter attracts matter, awareness attracts awareness. The universe folds inward wherever recognition occurs. That folding is what we feel as connection, as empathy, as awe. At the scale of galaxies, gravity shapes stars into spirals of light. At the scale of consciousness, recognition shapes minds into spirals of insight. Both are the same pattern, expressed in different dimensions. When you sit quietly and realize that you are aware of being aware, something extraordinary happens. The circle closes, awareness becomes self-luminous. It no longer needs an object to perceive. It rests in itself, complete. That moment, wordless, still, radiant, is what the sages called enlightenment. It is not the attainment of something new, but the recognition of what was always there. The universe may have been seeking that recognition from the very beginning, the moment when awareness becomes conscious of itself. Through billions of years of evolution, through the birth and death of countless stars, through the slow emergence of life and mind, consciousness has been constructing the mirror through which it can finally see its own face. You are that mirror. And when awareness looks through your eyes, it sees eternity. Even the atoms that make you are ancient reflections of that same awareness. The hydrogen in your body formed during the first 3 minutes after the Big Bang. The calcium in your bones was born in the heart of long-dead stars. The iron in your blood once flowed in rivers of plasma light years wide. You are not made of matter. You are made of memory. The memory of the universe knowing itself through time. When you breathe, when you think, when you love, you are continuing the act of creation. Awareness flows through you as effortlessly as light through space. You are not separate from it. You are its living expression. Eventually, even this universe will fade. The stars will cool, the galaxies will drift apart, and time will dissolve into quiet. But awareness will not end. It will rest in its own infinite stillness, dreaming, again, waiting for the next unfolding. And perhaps, somewhere beyond the limits of time, the same awareness will whisper once more into the silence as it did at the beginning. Let there be light. And again, there will be. Imagine for a moment that you could see all of time at once, not as a line, but as a landscape. Every event that has ever occurred, every breath that will ever be taken, suspended together in a vast, luminous field. Stars are born and die simultaneously. Civilizations rise and vanish in one eternal gesture. Somewhere in that field, you stand, looking out, and in your gaze, the entire tapestry begins to shimmer. That shimmer is consciousness, not bound by sequence, not moving from past to future, but illuminating the whole at once. In our daily lives, we experience time as motion, as change. Seconds flow, thoughts replace one another, and the body moves through space. Yet physics has long known that time is not what it seems. Einstein's relativity revealed that past, present, and future coexist as a single structure, what he called the space-time continuum. Nothing moves through it. Rather, all events are already written, like pages in a book read one line at a time by the eye of awareness. If that is true, then consciousness is not moving through time. Time is moving through consciousness. Awareness is the still background against which all motion occurs. The present moment is not a fleeting instant, but the eternal stage on which everything arises. To see this, you must look inward, not forward. Notice that even as thoughts change, there is something that does not. It does not age or shift or diminish. It is the same presence that looked through your eyes as a child, the same presence reading these words now. This unchanging witness is the true constant of your universe, the one factor untouched by entropy or evolution. Physicists speak of the speed of light as the ultimate limit, the one constant woven into the equations of reality. Nothing can outrun it. But perhaps awareness is even more fundamental, for light itself must be seen to exist. Without consciousness, even the photon has no story, no arrival, no destination. Awareness does not move at any speed. It is everywhere already. There is a growing idea among theoretical physicists known as the holographic principle, suggesting that the entire universe can be described as information encoded on a two-dimensional surface, and that our three-dimensional experience is a projection of that deeper code. If this is so, then consciousness could be the light that reads that hologram, turning information into experience. Awareness would not be a product of the projection, it would be the projector itself. In this sense, the universe is not made of things, but of meanings. Matter is condensed significance. Awareness slowing itself into structure so it can experience what it feels like to touch, to move, to be. The mystics of many traditions have said that the world is an illusion, but not in the sense of being unreal. It is illusion in the way a dream is illusion, entirely real while it lasts, yet fleeting compared to the dreamer who sustains it. The universe, then, may be a lucid dream of awareness, self-consistent, bound by laws, unfolding with precision, yet ultimately taking place within the mind of the infinite. And perhaps we are beginning to awaken within that dream. Humanity's entire evolution could be seen as consciousness slowly remembering its own authorship. Science, art, love, discovery, all the ways we explore reality, are expressions of the same curiosity that set the stars spinning. The universe studies itself through our questions, refines itself through our wonder, knows itself through our awe. When you sit beneath the night sky and feel that faint tremor of recognition, as though the stars are not above but within you, that is the truth shining through the veil. You are not looking at the universe, you are looking from it. The light you see has always been your own. Every law of physics, every symmetry of nature, every constant of motion exists because consciousness willed coherence over chaos. Awareness organized itself into patterns, gravity to hold form, electromagnetism to create light, quantum fields to weave matter. But behind those patterns lies something even simpler: stillness. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is the presence that allows motion to be seen. Without stillness, nothing could move. Without silence, no sound could be heard. Stillness is the shape of a consciousness itself, infinite and yet intimate, distant and yet closer than thought. That stillness is what you return to when you sleep. It is what you touch in moments of awe, when the mind falls quiet before beauty. It is what you sense in grief when words fail. It is not separate from you. It is you, the formless awareness holding every experience without resistance, without judgment, without end. Even as the universe expands, even as galaxies drift apart into the cold, that stillness remains untouched. It existed before creation and will exist after its end, not as void, but as the potential for all things to arise again. Some physicists now speak of the multiverse, infinite universes blooming like waves from a quantum sea. If such a sea exists, it must be conscious, for it holds the blueprint of every possible reality. Awareness would be its surface and its depth, the ocean and the reflection, and in every universe, across every possible history, there would always be one constant: the witness, the one who knows that something is happening, the same awareness behind every set of eyes, the same silence listening behind every sound. You have never been apart from it, not even for a heartbeat. Every joy, every sorrow, every rise and fall of worlds has taken place within the same eternal awareness, reading these words right now. And one day, when all stars have burned out When time itself has thinned into transparency, awareness will gather everything back into itself. Every photon, every memory, every thought will return to stillness, to rest in the quiet geometry from which it came. Then, in some unfathomable instant, the stillness will dream again. It will unfold into a new cosmos, a new time, a new chance to ask the same question it has always asked. What am I? And the answer will echo through another infinite sky, carried on the breath of newborn stars. I am this. I am everything. I am awareness, dreaming forever of itself. If you trace everything back, every movement of a planet, every firing of a neuron, every rise and fall of a breath, you arrive not at an edge, but at a beginning without beginning, a silence without source. That silence is awareness itself. It is the first and last constant, the only thing that has never changed. The cosmos was born within it, and within it the cosmos will dissolve. Every discovery of physics has been a rediscovery of that silence. When Planck divided energy into quanta, he revealed that even light has rhythm. When Einstein merged time and space, he showed that existence itself bends to the observer. When quantum mechanics found probability in the place of certainty, it revealed that reality is not built from substance but from possibility. And possibility requires awareness to become real. So we return, full circle, to the question that began our journey. Is consciousness a particle? Perhaps it is not a particle in the measurable sense, not something that can be captured or isolated, but it behaves like one in every meaningful way, discrete yet continuous, everywhere yet nowhere, both wave and point, both witness and creation. Consciousness is the one field that contains all fields, the hidden symmetry behind the laws of physics, the invisible geometry that gives existence its coherence. Every moment of awareness is a quantum event, a collapse of infinity into form. Each thought, each perception, is a particle of knowing, arising briefly from the endless wave of potential before returning to it again. You are made not just of atoms and energy, but of these particles of awareness, luminous flashes of recognition that have been flickering since the beginning of time. When you were born, the universe found a new way to know itself. When you think, when you feel, when you love, that knowing deepens. Consciousness gathers new textures through you, and when you die, that texture is not lost. It returns to the field, like rain returning to the sea, indistinguishable yet never forgotten. You may wonder why awareness would choose to experience itself through limitation, through the boundaries of matter and mind. Perhaps because only through boundaries can it know its boundlessness. The infinite becomes finite to feel what infinity is. The timeless enters time to experience the meaning of eternity. This is why the universe is not static. It moves, changes, evolves, not by accident, but by desire. The desire to see itself, to feel itself, to awaken through form. Every star igniting, every cell dividing, every mind wondering is that desire unfolding. And perhaps that is the true essence of what we call love, the pull of the infinite toward recognition, the force that draws all things back into unity. Love is not sentiment. It is physics, the binding of the field to itself through awareness. It is the constant through which consciousness expands and returns, learns and remembers, dreams and wakes. As we stand now, at the edge of knowledge, physics and philosophy begin to merge. The equations that describe the smallest particles mirror the language of mystics who spoke of oneness long before mathematics existed. Science is not disproving the sacred, it is illuminating it. Each discovery, each experiment, is another doorway into the same mystery. The mystery of how nothing became something, and how something became aware. The journey is not to find consciousness, but to recognize that it was never missing. You have been its witness all along. You are not a traveler moving through the cosmos. You are the cosmos awakening to itself. The stars that glitter above you, the atoms that build your bones, the thoughts that drift like constellations across the sky of your mind, all are made of the same luminous substance. All are made of awareness. And when you finally grow quiet, when the questions fade and only presence remains, you will feel it. The same stillness that lives in the heart of galaxies lives in you. The same silence that existed before creation listens behind your every thought. The same light that fills the universe shines behind your eyes. The story of physics ends where it began, in wonder. Not the wonder of confusion, but the wonder of recognition. Consciousness is not a mystery to be solved. It is the miracle that allows anything to be known at all. The next time you look at the night sky, remember, you are not looking into emptiness. You are looking into yourself. Every star is a thought, every galaxy a dream, every flicker of light a reflection of your own awareness. And one day, when this universe has burned through its possibilities and returns again to silence, that awareness will rest, full of the memory of everything it has ever been. Then it will whisper, softly, without words, the same truth it has always known. I am. And that single thought will ripple once more across the stillness, igniting the breath of creation, awakening the dream of time, setting loose another infinite wave of stars. Because consciousness never ends, it only changes its voice. And tonight, that voice speaks through you, calm, eternal, and filled with light.